And there it is, another Premier League season done. Oh my word. I mean, I can't even believe when I think back to the 2012-13 season, that was 10 years ago, and another has come and gone. We've seen so many, I mean, great moments. I think in some ways it's been one of the most fascinating Premier League seasons I've seen in a long time. Loads of underdogs doing really well, and we're actually going to make sure that we go now and grade every single Premier League club and the season they've had this campaign in the last 12, well, really 10 months or so. We are going to talk about Leicester as well, because one unbelievable story. I know they've been relegated, and it's going to be, yes, it would have been a very dark day for Leicester fans, but we're going to talk about the legacy that they've left in top flight football in these sort of 8, 9 or so years that they have been joining us in the Premier League. And now I'm here with Matisse to talk, who's over the moon because it's finally all over.
So happy, man. Like, when the final whistle blew, it was just relief. I didn't really mind about the result. I didn't really mind about the goals scored and conceded. I just needed the game to be over. And I'm in holiday mode now. I'm in good spirits. The sun is out, summer's starting, transfer news is coming, of course, as well. And then we just move to next season. Everybody starts on the same points, it's 0. If you're relegated, unlucky. If you're champions, fair play. Everybody else is the same.
Yeah, very true. And that is the beauty of every Premier League season. That's why it annoys me when people go, like last season when we were getting top 4, some Arsenal fans were saying, yeah, but we're not that far off actually competing. Competing? You haven't even got top 4, relax. You all start on 0 again. So if you get your business right and things click, you never really know. But before we start looking ahead, we've got to look back a little bit. And we're going to start with Leicester. And let's just remind ourselves of Leicester's achievements since being in the Premier League. How many years was it in total? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 9. Anyway, their league finishes 14th, 1st, 12th, 9th, 5th, 8th, and then relegated 18th. They won a Premier League, an FA Cup, and a Community Shield. Gary Lineker went as far as to tweet, if you'd offered me a Premier League title, an FA Cup, and a Community Shield only to get relegated, you know,
you take
9 years, would you take it? He said
100%.
yes.
Yeah.
What a story.
It doesn't get, like, in terms of clubs coming up, it doesn't get better than that. It really doesn't get better than that. Their recruitment to do this has been incredible. You know, 14th, 12th, this is what you'd expect from Leicester, and that would be good. That would be considered good. Any team that comes up from the Championship, 14th, 12th, these are good. These are really good positions to finish in, because you are staying up, and maybe by potentially a considerable gap, depending on the context of the points. So to go and be first, top 10 twice, and banging on the door for Champions League places twice in a row as well, and pick up the silverware is just insane. And I think in the end, their demise is down to just how well they did, because of course we look at the examples of Southampton. There was a lot of players that came through that team. Of course, they were cherry picked. Leicester didn't have all their players taken. No. They kept quite a few of them. In the end, maybe that was to their demise, because maybe the money didn't come in. The players became disillusioned, like the Ndidis, the Madisons, the Tielemans, and then subsequently they're relegated. So people can kind of say you should keep everybody together, but if that group no longer is motivated because they've missed out on Champions League places twice in 2 years, that is also a problem as well. So there's a fine balance to it. I think Steve Walsh, I think it was one of their big recruitment guys, ended up leaving as well in this period. And he was massive for the players coming in, and you know, in the end it just fell off. But it doesn't get better than that. You touched on something I think is spot on about things going a little bit stale, and maybe why keeping your best players isn't always the solution. I'm going to put a pin in that because I think it's a great point. I want to come back to that. One thing I want to just say while we're on this graphic is the Premier League was an unbelievable achievement. I think now looking back at it, it wasn't just, I say it wasn't just, like it wasn't some fluke, everyone else wasn't very good and they just kind of momentum carried them over the line. I think we reflect on a lot of those players they had now, Kante, Mahrez, Vardy, and you go, they actually had a very good spine and a very good team. We just probably didn't appreciate how good some of those players were. Yeah. And yes, they won on 81 points. That probably doesn't win you the title most seasons. No. And yes, City, Arsenal, Tottenham, they didn't put up a good enough fight. But take nothing away from it. To win the Premier League with, I think, the least expensive squad to ever do it, and certainly the most surprising of winners ever, in my opinion. I mean, I think that is the most unbelievable achievement. But what I love is that they went and picked up the FA Cup and the Community Shield, because I think what that collection does is it just puts into context
actually how well run they were as a club, and things went wrong slightly, we'll touch on that.
Yeah.
But how well run they were as a club, that it wasn't just a fluke. They were doing really great things behind the scenes. Their recruitment had been very good. They were replenishing stock. They were, getting in good managers. They were making really good decisions, and it was earned. Yes, there is a degree of fairy tale about the way they won the Premier League, but not when you're racking up 3. And I'm going to include the Community Shield as a trophy in this. Yeah. When you rack up 3 in the time that you've been in the Premier League, that's not luck. That's not fluke. That is real testament to the way the club was run, and that's amazing.
Yeah, the kind of praise that Brighton are getting right now for the recruitment is what Leicester were doing. You look at Kante. You look at Mahrez coming from the lower divisions of French football, not even Ligue 1. You look at Drinkwater coming from Manchester United's academy. Ben Chilwell come through the academy as well. And then you've got your senior players like your Jamie Vardy's that have come through the leagues, Wes Morgan, Schmeichel as well. So it was a very well put together team. And it was a team that had Cambiasso in, if you remember, in the 14th place. And then he left. Yeah. And Kante came in and then they went to first. Yeah. Crazy for his career, Cambiasso, if he could have maybe won the league. So, and it was a ruthless operation as well. Ranieri being sacked. Yeah. And knowing that they needed to move on to maybe go to in another way. So they weren't one of these clubs that, kind of pondered around, and they made decisions when they had to. So I think this was the turning point. The 2 5th place finishes, if they could have qualified for the Champions League one of those 2 times, that massive influx of money with the recruitment, maybe that would have kicked them on. But also that was key for the players like Maddison, Tielemans, Ndidi maybe as well. Yep. They've all kind of, especially Tielemans and Ndidi, kind of fallen from those seasons. They've fallen away, and I think that was the moment to make that next push and to keep those guys motivated and alive. And then, that's a big disappointment to kind of try and bounce back from.
I completely agree, because it was actually the season after they finished that 2nd, 5th place, seemingly bottled it a 2nd year in a row, the opportunity to get Champions League football. And that was when they added Ryan Bertrand, Soumare, Patson Daka. They added another there was another player.
Mendy. Was it Mendy in midfield?
No, I think Mendy came earlier. There was someone else. I know that Vestergaard came in. Maybe it was just them. But there was, so certainly Soumare, Daka, and I think one more came in. And that was seen as like, wow, Leicester are getting these Football Manager players that are like all really exciting, going for 25, 30 million or whatever, and is this where they kick on? And I think you're so right about the sales, because now we're going to move into the part of the discussion where things went wrong. And I think you're so right. Part of the thing was actually, I don't always believe that holding on for everything to keep your best players is always the best thing. I think there was a point where James Maddison would have gone for 50, 60 million. He might have been worth 70, 80. And look, they sold Fofana to you guys for 80. So
Maguire
for 80. Yeah, and they've done their fair share of selling. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Leicester held on to all their players, but I think there was an opportunity with Tielemans, who had a year left on his contract last summer. Really, I think they should have found a way to get him out the door and get the kind of money they needed in, even if it was only 20, 25 million. Ndidi, again, Maddison. I'm not saying all of them, but 1 or 2 of them, where things going a little bit stale. And I agree, because one of the issues they had, and I really point everyone towards a really good video on Tifo. Go watch Tifo. They explain what went wrong with Leicester. They talk about how the COVID pandemic was a really, really big issue for them, perhaps more than other clubs. They then talk about how a club that had benefited off selling for big fees suddenly weren't, and then we're bringing in the likes of Ryan Bertrand and Vestergaard, who were kind of older, more experienced players on lower fees. They kind of moved away from their model. And of course they had the really tragic death of their owner, Sfiranda Prava, I hope I pronounced that right. And that was obviously a big moment for the club as well. So they've had a lot of things to deal with and battle with, some really tragic ones like I've just mentioned there. And ultimately, they've just not been able to then kick on and go again, and it's led to their relegation.
But they won't leave having felt like they didn't maximise. That's the thing.
You're right.
I think out of all the clubs that have been relegated, they're the ones that will have. Listen,
I think their fans are okay.
I think they'll be.
But I think they're like, thank you for everything.
Yeah, I think you can't ask for more than that. Burnley, Luton, Sheffield United coming up. You look at Leeds, who have gone down after a couple of seasons. Southampton, funnily enough, did sell all their players, made loads of profits, still went down. Maybe there is just no running from it. You will just eventually have to be recycled back down to the Championship. But you can't get. They've had Champions League football, they've had Europa League football, they've had trophies. You can't get better than that without a massive takeover and a Newcastle situation kicking you on.
Yeah, I completely agree. tactically, this is talking tactics, although we've had to obviously discuss Leicester in the kind of the wider context. I think they deserve it, but tactically, I think one of the big issues they've had this season, look, I'm not a Leicester fan, I don't watch them week in, week out. Leicester fans in the comments, please let me know if I'm wrong or out of line for saying this, but I think a big part of what's gone wrong for Leicester is actually, as they needed to just find a degree of almost go back to basics, and we've touched on this before, you know, James Maddison playing out on the right, he is your best talisman, he is your best player. Get him in those central areas of the pitch. You know, Tielemans in and out, Ndidi in and out, Soumaré in and out. Pick your best balance. Amate starting at centre-back. He's not a centre-back. Like, there were just a lot of things that, for me, I just thought, come on, you know, switching from, they've played everything from a 3-4-3 to a 4-3-3 to a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-4-2. They've really tried everything. They've gone Vardy up top, Iheanacho up top, Daka up top. I just don't think they ever found a consistency, and even just a core of 13, 14 players that they were going to trust to get them through this bit. And I also don't think they ever really thought they were going to go down. And I think that kind of lack of identity in terms of the position they were in, but also the players they were going to use and the approach they were going to take, I think has ultimately cost them as well.
I think there was talk about Rodgers' future early in the season, and I think you kind of needed.
He has a lot to answer for.
Yeah, you either pull the trigger or you don't, and they kind of didn't do anything, and they left it really, really late. And then Dean Smith coming in is a little bit uninspiring, in my opinion. So it wasn't the best appointment. And you look at some of the managers that they could have maybe missed out on, Emery, etc. There were some really good managers that Leicester could have appointed when things were going a little bit left with Rodgers. And again, a Rodgers that has won the FA Cup, that has, you know, taken them on the cusp of Champions League. Probably Rodgers could do no more than he'd done. So again, maybe going stale. So
and it tends to go stale with him.
Yeah, so maybe going stale and not acting earlier has put them in this position as well, because look, Aston Villa were down there with Steven Gerrard. Emery comes in and changes their fortune.
Very
so
true.
I think they may have just left it a bit too late on the manager front as well. If they were going to do something, if you weren't going to do anything, maybe just stick with Rodgers because he is a better manager than Dean Smith.
That's the perfect way to put it, because, you know, and I want to, again, looking at the whole wider context. Firstly, they didn't have much money to spend this summer. You know, they were in a bit of trouble in terms of, you know, they had to sell Fofana, they got in Fass, was it? But, you know, it's not really worked out. The recruitment's not been great, but I don't think they had that much to
losing Schmeichel was big as well.
Yeah, you know, when you compare it to the season before, where they did spend quite a little bit, they didn't this summer at all. And I do think you have to keep adding in the Premier League. You can't slow down. So I feel sorry for Rodgers in that sense. Having said that, I think Rodgers has a lot to answer for. But I also think, I don't want to kind of rewrite history here. I was on this show probably in about October, November time saying to you, if you look at their underlying numbers, they're actually pretty good. If they keep doing what they need to do, and Maddison actually tweeted as much, then they'll probably be okay. But you're so right, you do one of the other. I was an advocate for sticking with Rodgers. Obviously, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But if you're going to get rid of him, you do it in January, latest. You know, not kind of, March, wasn't it? February?
March, April, I think.
Yeah, that's too late for it to have a real proper impact. But, Leicester, fair play to them. And it just reminds us some of the players that have been relegated to them. James Justin, Pereira, Castagna, Ndidi, Soumaré, Tielemans, Maddison, Barnes, Tete, Iheanacho, Daka. I'm not saying I want Arsenal to sign these players, but if Arsenal turn to any one of those players for depth this summer, I wouldn't complain.
Ricardo Pereira had really high stocks. James Justin was great when he burst onto the scene, then obviously picked up a massive injury.
Big injuries.
Ndidi has fallen away the last couple of years. He's only, I think, 26, is he?
Yeah, I don't think
he's not too old, so I'm not sure what's going to happen with him. Tielemans' contract running out, he'll be going on a free. Maddison, big talent, but very injury prone. Harvey Barnes could definitely do a job for many teams in the Premier League. And Iheanacho's always had a decent goal scoring rate as well.
Like
so there's some talent there. They're one of those teams that I think out of the three teams going down, they're the ones that are going to lose the most players. I think Leeds, I could see a good crop of those staying, maybe a couple of exits, maybe like a Rodrigo, maybe Nonato, and then we're same with Southampton, maybe Lavia or James Ward-Prowse. But I don't think the whole team's going to get ripped up. I think Leicester, I would be really shocked if they came back up purely because they've got so much ins and outs. And their recruitment would have to be spot on. The manager situation with Dean Smith, is that even going to be the situation next season as well in the Championship? So, yeah, I think there's a lot going on at Leicester.
I completely agree. Some really talented players there. Last sign of the relegation battle. Leeds down, Everton survive. Just your thoughts?
Everton, I had them to stay up just purely because of their fixture list a couple of weeks ago. They had a good fixture list. You look at Bournemouth on the last day, you do expect them to do the job just about. Obviously, Doucouré with a strike. But they are knocking on the door, and they need to fix their recruitment. They need to find, I don't know where they're going to find the money. I know financially they've been struggling. Obviously, new stadiums being built as well. But this is the second year in a run where Everton are on the cusp of getting relegated. And I remember Wigan and Athletic were very similar. They kept knocking on the door, and eventually they did go down. So I think Everton will be in a relegation battle again next season. If I don't see major changes to that attack, that team's going straight back into another relegation fight. There's talk about Onana in midfield. They have to hold on to him. They let go of Gordon in January. I don't think that's a massive deal. Got loads of money in for him, so I think that's a great deal on their half. Yeah. But I'm looking at their attack and I'm seeing, McNeil, Iwobi, I think needs to go back into central midfield. They've been playing him out wide a lot. I think that's one of the few things I like that Lampard did was they had him in midfield. And then the striker options are not good enough as well. There's a lot of rebuilding. I think the defence for Jordan Dyche is fine. You've got Michael Keane, you've got Tchaikovsky, you've got, I think in that defence centre-back area, maybe the fullbacks need looking at. But yeah, there's a lot of work to do if they're not going to be back in this position.
And I'm not saying this in reaction to how I think Everton fans are feeling. I'm just saying this off the top of my head. But their feeling should be relief, in my opinion.
Yeah, of course.
Not celebration. Forest, celebrate staying up. And pretty much anyone else who's in that fight, Bournemouth, whatever. Credit. And I don't mean to be rude, but cool, credit. That a lot of people would have had you guys going down, and first season back and all that. Celebrate staying up. That's an achievement. But I think if you're Everton, it should be nothing but relief. Enjoy yesterday for the whole cool. We stayed up, yay. But now it's what a disgraceful season that was again.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that needs to be kind of where the standards and the kind of wider evaluation of Everton is. And we'll see, because we know that they're in financial trouble.
You take more players from that Leicester team than you would the Everton team. You take
1 million%.
It's not even close, so that has got to be, because I look at that Everton team, I could see them in the Championship. I really could. I look at that Everton team and I think if they were in the Championship, they wouldn't look out of place. Yeah. They really wouldn't.
But Sean Dyche did a few nice things, bringing Doucouré into midfield, back into the teams, all playing off the striker. I thought, what a goal, by the way, to keep them up.
What a goal, yeah.
Fair enough. Everton, fair play, you stayed up. But got to kick on next season. Yeah. Right, and that brings us on nicely to the Premier League grading. So A is, obviously, you got an A. Well done. That's the best you can do. That's fantastic. Yeah. A. B is, I'd say you've had a good / very good season.
Yeah.
You've had a very good season.
Very respectable score.
Yeah. C is, it's all right.
Just about scraped pass.
Yeah, it's a pass.
Yeah.
D is, listen, that wasn't good enough.
That wasn't good enough, yeah.
F is, you
Where's the E? There's no space.
As far as I'm concerned, if you're getting an E, you're getting. I once got an E in an exam. I was like, you may as well give me.
You may as well just give me an F.
Like, what do I feel good about this? I don't want the E.
A U should be there as well, but.
Well, F is fail.
But U is ungradable, and I have a team that should be ungradable. But anyway.
That's true. You're right. Actually.
Yeah, there's one team that really don't even deserve an F. They deserve an ungradable.
We'll call the F a U.
Yeah,
F is also U. All right, so let's get to it. We're going to start from
it's a nice graphic.
Thank you very much. We're going to start from the very top. Manchester City.
An A? Yeah. Champions have to get an A. Yeah, for me, it doesn't matter about the context, doesn't matter about the points. People say they only got 89 points when they usually get 90. Listen, if Man City needed to get 90 to win it, they would have got 90. If they needed to get 93 or 94, they would have got 93 or 94. The kind of run that they were on when the pressure was on legislates and compensates for anything when the pressure is off. They got 2 games, they went on the piss, they dropped points. It doesn't matter.
But I am also happy that the table
doesn't look so
shows that we're not so far.
I hear that.
I know they could have, but I'm just still. I just think the football, the level we've played at this season. Yeah. I'm glad the table doesn't reflect a massive gap.
I agree.
But Arsenal, I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
Arsenal, I give an A. I can't be a hypocrite. Arsenal have shocked me massively this season. I had them to finish just outside the top 4. If they finish 4th, not a massive surprise to go from 5th to 4th. But the point is they were in a top 4 battle for me. And that's with the signings they made. I looked at the way they played in pre-season against us. They were brilliant. Zinchenko, Jesus, unbelievable start. And I thought, okay, this could be the upgrade they needed to get into the top 4. But never did I think they'd be in a title race. Never did I think they'd, have 50 points from 57 or whatever it was to go on that run at the start of the season, to play the best football, to be the best team, to dig in and win in difficult away games at Brighton, etc., and actually batter them to play us off the park at the Bridge. So it's been a capitulation, it's been a fall off, but that's not the season. That's the end, and that's the pressure, and that's what a young team on its first rodeo kind of, you know, that's you fall off the horse. It's not a surprise. It's disappointing for a lot of people for sure, but it's not a shock. And it's a learning curve, but I think overall, yeah, it has to be an A. If they don't get an A, then God help the rest of these lot.
Well, listen, look, I agree. You're right about the disappointment at the end, but a 15-point gain on the season before. 88 goals are the most goals we've ever scored in a Premier League season.
Yep.
Took City to at least game week 33, 34. I think we could be proud of that. Manchester United.
Man United get a B.
B.
I don't want to overdo it with United because they have taken some absolute slappings, and I do believe that the way you lose games is important. I don't believe that every single drop points or every single loss is equal. If you lose 7-0, that is a highlight. And listen, Man United
have one away win against the top 9, am I right?
Shocking away record. Now, Man United have hit objectives and they've done a good season. Don't get me wrong. Won a cup, top 4, and they could do a domestic cup double, but I don't think they will. But this is the Premier League. But let's not kid ourselves. Manchester United should never have been 7th in the first place. Manchester United should never have finished that low in the table last year. Man United should always be in the top 4 with the money that they've spent with Casemiro, with Champions League Varane, with Ronaldo, with Sancho, with Anthony. This is not a cheap team. This is not a team of underdogs. This is not a woe is me story. This is a top team with a top manager, with pedigree, and they should be in the top 4. So even though people may not have had them in there, because listen, you can only pick 4 teams and there's a lot of competition. Liverpool falling out, no one expected. But Man United being in there is not this miraculous achievement that deserves to be, you know, oh my God. No, this is Manchester United, and you spend like Manchester United, so you should be in. You should be in there, and you've done that.
Yeah, I actually agree with all that. I do. I think. I don't know what more to add. It's. Yes, I didn't have them in the top 4. Yes, they've done better than I expected, but at the same time, it's married with Liverpool doing way worse than I expected, Tottenham doing way worse than I expected, Arsenal doing way better than I expected. So,
and they'll be graded accordingly.
Yes. So B, fine. Newcastle.
A.
Yeah, agree.
A. I mean, these guys, they're the reason why, you know, they're the reason why a lot of other clubs are going to be in deep crap in this, because Newcastle to go from relegation battle in Christmas of last season to then top 4 in this season, and by the way, consistently in the top 4. They've always been in there. They've never, it's not a late surge, they've been in there the entire time, consistently the best defence in the league for most of the season. Isak coming in, lumping in the goals with Callum Wilson, the organisation at the back, the midfield, the Longstaffs, the Willocks, the Dan Burns, the Sars, you know, these are not world-class players, and yet they've put themselves in the Champions League. It's not a team glittered with world-class talent, so they've massively overachieved. They're well ahead of schedule, and they haven't broke the bank like everybody thought they would. I think probably some of their most expensive signings, like maybe a Chris Wood, has been maybe the most disappointing ones. The Trippiers, what fantastic business. Captain of the team now, and has patrolled that right side. Probably been maybe the best right back in the league this season. So yeah, definitely in an A. Liverpool have to get a D. I don't want to take it as far as an F.
I agree with you.
Because there has been a lot of change, and they have had a lot of injuries as well, as they always seem to. And I think them and Chelsea may be ranked quite low down in terms of minutes missed or games missed for players or whatever, but it's been poor. It's been really, really poor, and because it's just the Premier League, I'm going to give them a D because they did finish 5th, and yes, they should be in the Champions League minimum, but their transfer window last summer kind of shown that they weren't as serious as maybe they needed to be to go for the title. If I was doing all competitions, then maybe they'd be going further down because they were out of all competitions really, really early. And they did go on a late run. So that did give them a little bit of help on that grade, because they did try to bring it all back. And it took a time for Klopp to change the tactics and to invert Trent and to do things differently. And yeah, I think it's been a poor season for a team that have gone for quadruple chasers to go and finish in 5th is really poor. But because of what F stands for and who's going in F, I'm going to not put them there because there's bigger fish to fry here.
I completely agree.
Brighton, wow. For some of the, I think I've got to give him an A.
Of course.
I have to give him an A, man. Europa League football, played some of the best football this season.
Yeah.
Some of the recruitment's been outstanding. Some of the talents that they've unearthed.
They've lost their manager. They've lost their player of the season.
Yeah, exactly. Lost their manager, lost their staff, lost their player of the season. It's like, and they've been better, and they've been even better. They've played brilliant football, so entertaining, so brave, and yeah, Europa League qualification for the first time. They have to get an A. Unbelievable.
I'm just going to jump back to Liverpool very quickly for 1 sec. The only thing that is making me think F is the amount of batterings they got away from home as well. 3-0 at Wolves.
Brighton as well.
But I think just because of that late run, and you're right, the transition, I just save them. They get a grade.
Yeah.
They don't. You know, it's not a complete fail.
If there was an E, I think I'd put them there.
Fine.
Yeah, I think I would. But
Brighton, unbelievable. Villa.
Wow, what a turnaround. Conference League football. I think Villa, they're on the cusp. They're like a B plus, but what do you think?
I think they're an A.
Do you want to give them an A?
Yeah, I do, man. They're Steven Gerrard.
They're one of the best teams this calendar year in the league.
They've gone home and away to Tottenham and won. You know, get a draw at Anfield. I mean, when we played them, I know we beat them with a late goal, but
it's a really good team, though. Like when you look at the names, it's a good team.
They're a good side, and you know, but look, I think it's probably more like a no. It is an A for Villa, but it's like an A star for Emery, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like. But yeah, I'll give him a name, man. To secure 7th from the run they went on to do it.
Yeah. To secure 7th from the relegations battle with Gerrard, I give him an A. That might be the last A I give, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, Tottenham.
Yeah. Tottenham get an F.
Yeah, I agree.
I was gonna put them, I can't put them next to Liverpool because Tottenham have gone through 3 managers.
Yeah.
They've got, and it's not just about what happened on the pitch, because Tottenham finishing 8th. Tottenham finishing 8th is bad, but it's Tottenham. So it's like, okay. It's poor, don't get me wrong, they should be challenging.
Is it a bigger drop-off from 4th to 8th than Liverpool's second quadruple chase to 5th? Like, that's, I can see Tottenham fans going, fair, you want to fail us, but...
Do you know what it is? It's, for me with Tottenham, it's not just about what happened on the pitch, it's what happened off the pitch. Fine. It's the lack of clarification on Paratici. That was a joke of a situation. It was the fact that they allowed themselves to be mugged off by Conte publicly, constantly, and wavered for so long on sacking him, only to bring in Stellini, his second-hand man, and then to bring in Ryan Mason. I just think with Liverpool, at least they've stuck with Klopp, and you know Liverpool need to react in the transfer window and go again. With Tottenham, they still have no manager. The owner is so unserious with his statements. It's a disgrace. Harry Kane has scored 30 goals in that team. That's why I have to give them an F, because without that singular player, they're in the bottom half. Yeah. They really are in the bottom half. So for context, they have been absolutely shambolic. 5-0 down against Newcastle in 20 minutes. And then, what was it, in the other game where they were, what was it?
Yeah, Liverpool, they're 3-0 down after 30 minutes. I mean, they pulled it back.
I know they pulled, and then they still lost again. They've been memed. The chicken dance from Richarlison, only to go and concede. Literally, like, 60 seconds later? I have to put you as an F. Like, just a joke.
Fair enough, Spurs. They've been failed. Brentford
get a B. You could say Brentford should get an A as well.
I would be giving them an A.
Do you want to give them an A?
Because
of the spend and the resources and what?
Because of that, really. Because really, they rank like 18th for things like spend and resources and the expense of the
squad. Let's give them an A then. Let's do it.
Yeah,
20 goal a season striker in Tony as well.
Yeah.
Buemo, really good. Yeah, for what they've spent and for what they are, they've massively overachieved. They've been comfortably in the top 10. They were banging on the door for Europe as well. Doesn't really get better than that for what they've done.
Fulham
I'll put as a B.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't want to go too far with it, but a lot of people had Fulham to be in a relegation battle, and they're in 10th, is it?
Yeah, I think they're 10th. Yeah.
That is that's a pretty impressive effort from them. Pretty impressive effort from them. For them to be comfortably in 10th there after being predicted to go down is serious work.
Palace
is tricky.
Can I jump in with they're my first C. I'll move it if you want to move. But my reasoning being is Hodgson put together a good run towards the end.
Yeah.
Call me cynical. Love Hodgson. Fair play. You know, he did a very good job. I actually think they get most of those results with Vieira. I think it was a case of Vieira got through all the really horrible fixtures where they played literally everyone above them.
Did.
And they had everyone below them.
Yeah.
I think there was more expectation of Palace to kick on.
Yeah.
And they finished 11th.
Yeah.
It's fine. Like, C is literally fine.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think they've done this season.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah, I'm pretty cool with that. Elise, Eze, really good breakout seasons again for them. Chelsea don't deserve to be graded. This is my problem with your options.
Chuck them. Just get rid of them.
Like, honestly, Chelsea don't deserve to be next to Tottenham. They deserve to be below. That's my only issue. Like, Chelsea don't deserve to be along. Yeah.
There you go.
Chelsea, for the viewers, Chelsea are ungradable, okay? Chelsea are ungradable. Or, yeah, they're ungradable. They get a U. Because for the performance this season, it's horrendous. Of course, there's context, but there's not context for finishing in 12th, is it?
Where they finished? A U. There we go.
Thank you.
Oh, no worries.
It's the worst top performing team in history, from what I can remember.
Yep, I think you're right.
It's the worst performing Chelsea team since the mid-90s. It's the worst performing Chelsea team since we've been playing 38 games. It's the worst of the worst of the worst, and we can keep going and going and going. Just a shambolic season. For the money spent, for the lack of clarity on direction from the beginning, to go for instant starters in terms of experienced players and then to go down a very youthful route in January. For neglecting of young players like Carney from Aston Villa.
Keep it coming, man. I'm really enjoying this.
Didn't get many minutes. For the seasons for Sterling and Cucurella and Koulibaly, for the lack of goal scorers. I mean, Jesus, if you're going to be shit, at least be entertaining. One goal in February, one goal in April, I think. Goal of the month was the only goal at times. Player of the year has just been given to Silva because we have to be thankful for him, because otherwise we probably would have been even a worse mess. 3 managers, you can count 4 if you want to give Bruno, who was managing one day, one game. So yeah, a U for Chelsea. They get their own separate box right over there to the side. I don't even want to put them in. It doesn't matter. Even the teams that were relegated, because Southampton, Leeds, like, it can happen. It's not a shock. They're not going in with you lot. Like, you guys, ungradable in your own box over there by yourselves.
Fair enough.
And that had to happen. I'm sorry, it had to.
Disagree. There you go. Chelsea U. Wolves.
Wolves get a... Where did they end up finishing? They ended up finishing in 13th. I'd say a C.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They got a lot of injuries as well up front. I think Diego Costa had to come in and kind of...
Yeah. But they spent money, man. They brought in Nunes, they brought in Guedes. They should never have been in that relegation fight.
They did.
Fair enough. They acted very... And actually, I give them credit.
But everybody spends, don't they? So I guess what...
That's true. Yeah. But they got some real, like, players.
They got a nice midfield when you look at it. Yeah.
And they brought in Lopetegui, like, at a really good time. I thought it was really smart. They fired... I forgot his name. And they brought in
Nuno.
No,
Nuno was
the
one
other
before.
Guy. I forgot his name. But they brought in Lopetegui.
He wasn't there very long.
About a year or so. They brought in Lopetegui, like 2 games to go to the World Cup, but they didn't actually put him on the job. They're like, we know we're hiring you. Just see things out. There's an assistant down there. You take things over after the World Cup. I thought that was very smart. Home form kept them up, and they've actually finished a very respectable 13th. I think C, fine.
Yeah, I think C is fine for them.
West Ham.
West Ham spent 200 million, or just under that, in the summer.
Did they? Was it that much?
It was a lot. It was on the cusp of 200 million, and they were in a relegation fight for a good long period. If we're talking about Premier League only, because it's not Conference League, I have to give West Ham an F.
F?
Yeah. West Ham have massively underachieved. Scamacca, Declan Rice, Cornet from Burnley, Bowen, brilliant season before. Brought in Danny Ings in January.
No, you're making some good points.
Zuma back there.
Yeah.
Koufal, Cresswell, Emerson Palmieri from Chelsea. The backup French goalkeeper as well, behind Fabianski. It is a padded out squad. It is full to the brim of internationals. And for the majority of the season, they've been in a relegation battle. It's only recently they've managed to get themselves out of it and kind of walk away. But they spent a lot of money, and they have been Europa League, Conference League spots in the league, 7th, top 8, top 9, to fall all the way down there for the money they spent and for the quality that they have. Nah.
Fair enough. I would have given them a D for what it's worth, but yeah, fine. I think you made some good points. The only reason is because they were fighting on the European front. They were also doing it last season, getting to the semi-final. I think things just went a little.
I think some of the teams you play in Conference League early doors, though, for me, just makes it unacceptable to be down there. If they had finished mid-table, and if they had just been kind of hanging around mid-table,
so they finished 14th. So if they were more like 10th.
If they had been like 10th or 11th the whole time, then maybe I would have been. But I knew, like, if I'm going back to, it's not like they've dropped to 14th, been on the beach. That would have been different context. They were in relegation battle, and they were talking about we could get relegated. That's just crazy for me. West Ham, that's crazy.
Bournemouth
have to get minimum a C, maybe even a B.
Can I push you up to a B?
You can.
I just
no one had them to stay.
Yeah,
no one.
And fair play. They actually did it in crunch time with a lot of big away wins, which again we highlighted on this show. How many of their results came away from home in some big games.
Could they even get an A? Or is it too much?
Do you know why I'm not giving them an A? Because they did get quite a bit of investment in January.
Yeah.
They did spend quite a bit of money in January. And they finished 15th. Like, it's not fair enough.
Yeah.
They actually sealed their place.
Yeah, they were on the beach
quite a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But it's not, they haven't pulled up, they've done well. They've done very well. But I don't think they've done, I think what Brentford done getting 9th is very special. Villa getting European football, Brighton, the football they played. And I think a B is right, which is very good. And, you know, they did spend
Brentford did the double over City, didn't they? In the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think B is just about right.
Okay, cool with
if
that.
someone gave them an A, I wouldn't fight them too much.
Yeah.
Forest
feels like a C.
Yeah.
Because they did bring in a lot of players.
Yeah,
they did bring in a lot of players. They didn't come up here with any intention of, you know, being humble with their championship squad. They did have a few loanees, to be fair, in the championship. They did need quite a few players because a lot did leave, maybe contracts running out and loans, but they did go insane. Like us, what did they bring in? 20-something players in the end? In the end, there were players that were signed that couldn't even make the bench. So yeah, but it proved to be what was needed to stay up. So job done.
Yeah, fair enough. Everton.
Everton. It's tough because I want to give them an F for the size of club that they are. What they're doing this year is really not good enough.
I think that's fair.
So I'll give them an F. Yeah,
I would too. Listen, you stayed up, fine, fair enough, but it's an F. I mean, it's a total failure of season. I will say the last couple of windows or summers, they haven't been able to spend money.
Yeah.
And FFP's been an issue. We know they've had other issues going on behind the scenes, and we know that they've got the new stadium coming. So I'm not expecting it. I'm not saying they should be challenging top 4 or top 6.
Yeah.
But to be as low as 17th,
it's bad.
Maybe I could be tempted to go for a D, but
the thing is, but for a couple of points, we would have had them as an F.
Yeah, you're right.
So I'm not going to let the last day of the season skew it, because if they dropped points, they would have been an F. They would have been relegated. I'd be giving them an F. So
Leicester, I think it just,
you go from 8th to 18th, you have to get an F.
Yeah.
That's a massive drop off, no matter what the circumstances of the contracts and the players and whatnot.
I agree.
Leeds have been awful defensively. They have to get an F. Just awful defensively. Like, at some point, you have to tighten that ship. And Rodrigo missing was a big thing for them. Southampton have to get an F as well. Sadly, I like Southampton. Again, another club that have produced a lot of players, done the right things, great recruitment over the years. Beat City in the Carabao Cup round to stop them from doing the quadruple. Took points off Arsenal twice this season, home and away. Beat Chelsea at the Bridge. They've had some big results. 4-4 against Liverpool last day, but bottom of the league.
I agree. So now we've seen the whole thing.
Yep.
Any you're tempted to change? Any that you're looking at going, you know what? Like, the ones for me, I think West Ham I could push to a D.
Okay.
And Forest I could maybe push. Okay, sorry. So I could easily swap West Ham and Liverpool. I won't. I think this is right, but I could easily swap West Ham and Liverpool. Liverpool really, to spend 60-something million on Nunes, which they did, and they had a Gakpo. Yeah. And actually, they never really looked at getting top 4. I know that was a late story, but they never really looked at getting it. I think it's a big
drop off to go from a title race and a quadruple to then go and being 5th and out of all competitions.
I'd happily call this a failure of a season.
We can do that. We can drop Liverpool. I think because it's just
what I'll do for the ones we're unsure. I'll just draw an arrow just to say
Liverpool and West Ham are contentious. I just think, I think West Ham would be. I think that's what could be. That's what could be made, and I wouldn't raise too many eyebrows.
Sure. We'll keep it the same, but we'll just let the audience know.
But that's for you guys. You let us know. But I think most of this is spot on. Yeah. You look at a lot of images. This will probably go on Twitter, and usually it would get a lot of quote tweets, and people would go, "How could you say that?" I don't think people can do that with us. I think when people see this and it goes on Twitter,
is that a challenge you're putting out?
Go on, put this on Twitter. Right? When this goes on Twitter, they'll say that was a good grade for most clubs.
I think some people argue Arsenal are a B. I think some will say the way it ended, ultimately not really near City, who kind of rotated.
Do you think so? Do you think people will put Arsenal down to a B?
Only got top 4, didn't do anything in the other cups. I think they're an A.
If this was because this logo is here and it's just Premier League, that's why I kind of have it with Liverpool kind of there and not there. But if it was all competitions, Arsenal would drop, Liverpool would drop. So I think all competitions would change the narrative of it a little bit, or change the landscape of it, because now I'm bringing in your overall season in other cups where I expect you to do better. Yeah. And I think that is then when I'm going to start making changes.
Well, also because we're not doing this next week after the FA Cup final.
Exactly, which is why we have to do Premier League. Exactly.
Man United getting third, Carabao and FA Cup, you can't deny them.
Yeah, Man United fans will say, if we win the FA Cup, you go to an A. I would agree with you. If you win the FA Cup, I would probably move you up to an A. Right. But yeah, it's just league.
Anyone dare want to fight for Chelsea?
No one's going to fight for Chelsea. I'm not even hearing the argument. No? And I'm a Chelsea fan. I'm not hearing it.
Fair enough. All right, we're going to leave it there, everyone. A big thank you for joining us on DR Sports Talking Tactics. I did have some questions for you, Matisse, at the end of the show. Actually going to do it next week, because I think we will be together to cover the Manchester derby as well, which will be a fascinating game. So we'll leave it to then as we round off the whole season. I say that, we're doing a Champions League one. We might be. We will let you know, of course. You can see how organised I am. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and we'll see you very, very soon. Many, many thanks.